Hey, I'm live. See what happens when you just unplug and plug back in. Sometimes it's annoying when people say tell you to do it, but sometimes it does actually work. So, greetings everybody. Greetings. June Allen here, your racial sobriety mentor from juneallen.net, and I teach people how to heal from the impact of racism with racial sobriety and personal empowerment. It's good to be back. I've not been on for a couple of weeks, but I've been very busy, as you will hear. Just adjusting this. I've been very busy the last couple of weeks getting stuff ready for you. Hi, thanks for joining. So today's topic is all about racial sobriety in recovery. So I have been in recovery since how long have I been in recovery? Since 2010, and it was an amazing experience. I had a great time. Hi, hello, thanks for joining. Hi Mo, lovely to see you. I just had an amazing time going through the recovery process. But what I learned is that the cultural context was missing. So I needed to be able to explore my recovery from a more holistic place, because obviously we're still living under the system of racism. So I did loads of reading. I became obsessed about the psychology of racism and all that kind of stuff. Did some training as a therapist, which is still ongoing, and I had such a good time that I just had such a good time in reading about it and understanding it, that I just thought, you know what, I need to start sharing this stuff with other people, because it works. It really does work. So I just started sharing it with a lot more of other black people in recovery and stuff like that, and then I started talking about it, sharing about it, and the more I shared about it, the more people were interested. So then I started sharing a lot more publicly with it. So here I am today. So today I'm going to share 7 essentials that you need for recovery. If you're in recovery, or whether you're curious about recovery, you think you might be having addiction or whatever, then today's broadcast is really going to help you. But before I kind of get into the detail of it, I'm just going to share some housekeeping. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is I'm doing a racial sobriety conference. There's a racial sobriety conference. Just because of all the stuff that I just said to you in the last 5 minutes, there are still people that really struggle in recovery, because there isn't a lot of safe spaces for people to be able to talk about the link between racism and addiction. So I thought, you know what, on the 1st of June is my sobriety birthday. I've been sober in recovery from my primary fellowship since 2010. So 9 years later, I thought, well, the best way to celebrate it is to do a conference and let other people come and share their experience, strength and hope around addiction, and how they've kind of dealt with all of their challenges, from sort of food addiction to, gambling or alcohol, or, dodgy relationships or whatever it is. I thought it would be a really good opportunity for us to get together as people of colour, and to be able to share a lot of that stuff with each other, so we can empower each other and know that you're not alone. So that's the first thing. The Racial Sobriety Conference is going to be on the 1st of June, the 1st till the 9th. I want to, because it's my 9th birthday, I want to do 9 days of meetings, masterclasses, and guaranteed lots of melanin magic. So if you're free on the 1st of June to the 9th, there's going to be one meeting every single, well, there's going to be more, some days there'll be more than one meeting actually, because I'll be doing Facebook lives during the day, and then in the evening there'll be the conference will actually happen in the evening, around sort of 8 o'clock-ish, something like that. But yes, if you click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. You can find all of the details about the conference there. So the second thing on the housekeeping is that I'm also going to be doing a father and daughter workshop, and that is going to be hosted by Faith Agugu. She is a therapist who's based out in Australia. I've done loads of work with her in the past, and just really excited about that. This time last year we actually did a mother and daughters workshop. She hosted that, and that was really, really powerful. So she's coming back again in June, and we're going to do a Father's Day one this time. So that's going to be on Wednesday the 12th of June. So again, if you click the link in the bio, heal.juneallen.net, that's heal.juneallen.net, that's heal.juneallen.net. You can find all of the links in there for the father and daughter workshop. She's going to be exploring the wounded daughter's perspective as it relates to absent fathers. and then she's going to take you through a process that's going to help you to understand how the relationship with an absent father, because you can still be present physically but still be absent. She's going to talk about all of that, and then how it relates to how it's impacted your relationships as an adult. So it's going to be very powerful, very, very powerful. So again, click the link in the bio if you're interested in that, the father-daughter workshop. And the last thing that I want to share is that the Ghana trip. Oh my God, there's so much exciting stuff happening at the Yard of Greatness at the moment. I can't stand it. But yeah, so we're going to Ghana in November. Ghana is going to be, it's only going to be 12 ladies that are going to be able to come with us. It's 6 from the UK or the States and 6 from Australia. The Ghana retreat is going to be all about return to self, and the Ghanaian government are currently got this thing at the moment where they're sort of encouraging people to, because it's 400 years since our ancestors were taken from the shores of Africa, they are actually doing, they've got a campaign called Year of Return. So they're asking all the, African diaspora from around the world to come home to Ghana. So yeah, it's really good that all of this is kind of in alignment with that. So there's going to be workshops, there's going to be time to relax as well. So yeah, again, click the link in the bio if you're interested in the Ghana retreat. With Faith and I are going to be doing that together as well. So it's going to be 2 of us. It's going to be really great. So yeah, that's going to be really amazing. So if you're interested in that, then click the link in the bio. If you've never worked with Faith or myself before and you want to get a taste of it, you can sign up and get a free so kind of like a mini ebook. There's 3 trainings in there where Faith and I have worked together, so you can get that for free. So if you want to find out more information about that, then you can sign up via the link in the description. So you get 3 resources. There's Did Your Black Mother Betray You? That's a video. An audio on black mindfulness, another audio on boundaries, wounded daughters in relationships. Very powerful. Some of the previous workshops that we've done. So if you're interested in that and you're interested in coming to Ghana with this, then sign up and you'll get those resources for free. Okay, so now we're going to get into the content. So there's 3 requests I have when you're watching the broadcast. If there's something that you don't understand, type it in the comments. Or if you don't feel comfortable, because I understand this is a public platform and I do actually talk about stuff that sometimes can be quite deep. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing it in the contents, then share it. Put it in my DMs. So just DM me, and obviously I can answer your questions there. If you know somebody who you think might benefit from this, share it with them. Tag them. Maybe not tag them if you think that they're an addict. Maybe it might be better if you send it to them in a private message, because you don't want to the whole thing around anonymity and not shaming people around it is very delicate. So just be careful how you share and tag people. So I would maybe not tag them, but I would just send it to them in a private message. And the last thing is, let me know what your takeaways are. If there's stuff that I'm sharing that's really helped you, that's benefited you, that you've got something out of it, then either drop it in the comments or send me a private message, because that's really helpful for me to know that what I'm sharing is useful. So those are my 3 requests, and we are now going to get into the content. So the conference that's going to happen on the 1st of June, because racial sobriety is quite a new concept, I wanted to focus on, there's a slogan in recovery called, say first things first, and that basically means to put your recovery first. So that's the theme of the conference. Because I appreciate that there's people that have been in recovery for a long time that don't really understand the concept of racial sobriety, or there might be new people that are interested, that think they might be addicted or whatever, that also want to get an idea of what it's about. So this first conference is going to be all about more introductory type thing. So 7 things that you need to be aware of, that are, 7 essentials that you need to understand when you're in recovery and wanting to learn about racial sobriety. Number 1 is you have to understand the psychology of racism. You have to understand why the system operates the way it operates. And, with trying to, if you want to heal from this, you have to understand the disease. You have to understand it. You have to understand how it operates, why it operates, where it operates, and also how it impacts you. That's really, really important. That's number 2, actually. Number 2, you've got to understand how it impacts you, because it impacts people in different ways. It impacts people in different ways. One of the things that I'm going to be talking about in the conference, and it'll probably be the first one actually, is the whole idea of what I call kind of negrophobia, and the whole thing that we're so afraid of blackness, we're so afraid of our melanin, because that's what we've been taught, that's what the system teaches us, that melanin is unsafe, that melanin is dirty, that melanin is bad, everything about it is bad. So, you know, it's important to understand how you internalize that for yourself, and you know, how does that impact your relationships? How does that impact the way that you show up for yourself and you show up in the world? You know, because if you've internalized so much of it, that's going to have an impact on how you treat other people that look like you, because then your melanin is the trigger. Your melanin then becomes the trigger. And so it is really important for you to understand not just how the system operates from a psychological perspective, but how you've internalized that psychologically. And that's really important. I see a lot of people getting stuck in the whole thing around trying to understand the psychology of racism, why white supremacy behaves the way it behaves, and then people have got their own ideas and theories around why it is the way it is. But then people don't always tend to look at the impact of it. How, not just as a community, but it's important to look at your own personal way that it plays itself out. You know, and that's number 3. You've got to understand the way that you act it out. Because you can't change it, you can't heal from it if you don't know or you don't understand what behaviours you use to kind of cope with it. There's got to be, you know, the whole thing about addiction is, first of all, it's understanding that addiction is not just about drinking drugs. That's the first thing. And the second thing is understanding that, you know, addiction is anything that any behaviour that you use that you're trying to use that to self-soothe pain, to kind of cover up pain, but that behaviour is actually dysfunctional for you. It doesn't help you. It's making it worse. It can be life-threatening. It can be so many different things, but it's not nurturing. So that's when it becomes an addiction. You know, it's bad for you. It's not helping you. It's not good for you, but you continue to do it. So it can be anything along the spectrum, you know, from, you know, drinking or, you know, dysfunctional relationships, or drinking, or what was it? Not, I've also drinking, shopping, gambling, sex addiction, codependence. There's so many different. I mean, I'm going to go into this in a lot more detail because I'm going to be doing some Facebook lives this week, which go into a lot more detail around this stuff. But you know, just for the context of this conversation, you know, it is important as number 3 to understand the way that you act out. You know, do you act it out? You know, do you vomit all your pain onto other people, be it, you know, being mean to them or being violent to them or whatever it is? Do you externalize your pain or do you internalize it, and do you hurt yourself? Do you externalize it or do you internalize it? You know, that is really, really important. That is really, really important for you to understand, because again, everybody deals with their pain differently. So you've got to understand your own pattern. That's why there's so many different recovery fellowships, because people act out in different, people find different ways to act out and soothe, you know, soothe their pain in dysfunctional ways. That's why there's so many different fellowships. You know, one of the ways that one of the ladies that's coming in to do one of the talks is going to be talking about money and how, you know, unworthiness and how, you know, self-hate and, you know, that sense of unworthiness around being a black person impacts how abundant she is in terms of her career, and, you know, how much money we allow ourselves to receive because we feel unworthy. You know, that kind of stuff is really important, because so many of us talk about building businesses and stuff like that, but if you don't have any self-confidence and you feel unworthy because of the shame and stuff that you carry around being a black person or a person of colour, you know, you're not going to be abundant. So that whole, you know, addiction to poverty, deprivation, all of that kind of stuff, we're going to be talking about, this particular lady is going to be talking about the whole link between racism and deprivation and how it impacts our work and stuff like that, and our ability to manifest money and stuff like that. So number 3, it's important to understand how you act out, and it can be you know, cross addicted. It can be multiple addictions as well. It's not always just one. Quite often you find one, then you find other ones. You know, and I'm talking about myself as I talk to you as well, because I've been in recovery for quite a long time, and I've realised that there are other ways, that there are different ways I act out depending on what it is, you know. So, but it's the awareness that actually gives you the power to change it. It's the awareness that's going to be helpful for you. Yeah. So Number four, the number four essential you need is tools. You need tools. Yeah, you need tools. You need internal tools to be able to take care of yourself, and you need external tools so you understand how to deal with boundaries, how to set boundaries around behavior that's not good for you, people that are not good for you, places that are not good for you. And obviously in the the Facebook lives and stuff that I'm going to be doing over the week, I'll be talking about the external stuff and the internal stuff. I'll be talking about the 7 different places of people activity where racism acts out, and then I'll be talking about the internal stuff, how we internalize it, what that looks like, what are the characteristics of it, and all of that kind of stuff. That will all be going into a lot more detail. But in order to deal with those things, you need tools. You need what we call in recovery top lines and bottom lines, the things that you're not going to do that are going to harm you, and the things that you are going to do that are going to nurture you. That's what top and the bottom line is. So I'll be talking a lot more about cultural nourishment, cultural top lines, cultural bottom lines that you need in order to keep yourself safe in certain situations. So all of this stuff is really going to anchor you and give you a sense of purpose and give you a sense of empowerment. You're going to be taking your power back. Once you learn the tools and you've got your community and all that kind of stuff, you're going to fly. You're going to fly because you've got tools and you have a safe space to be able to really start to work on this stuff. That's kind of how I've managed to flip this recovery thing around, by using what I've learned, not just in the rooms themselves, but what I've learned from the reading and my own journey, and seeing black therapists and all of that kind of stuff. It's really important. It's really, really important for me to be able to just share a lot of this stuff, because you'll get so much relief. You get so much relief to be able to understand, number one, that you're not alone with a lot of this stuff. Number two, that there is a solution. And number three, you don't have to isolate. You don't have to isolate and think that there's no, you don't have to sit there in your powerlessness and you're upset. There are things that you can do to take care of yourself and begin to rebuild a legacy that's going to empower you, empower your family, and you can start building a legacy. You can start to build a legacy around it. So that is really, really powerful. That is really, really powerful. So the next one, after you've got your tools, number 6, like I was saying, you need a support network. You need a support network. Now, when we're talking about racial sobriety, you have to think about things like, in recovery, you have to get a sponsor. And a sponsor is somebody that has been in recovery for longer than you, and is going to take you through the steps, take you through the questions and stuff like that you need to complete, and share their own experience and stuff like that. Now, if you've got a sponsor that's white, how is that going to impact your experience? How is that going to impact your ability to tell the truth about who you are as a black person, in terms of you, or a person of colour, in terms of you, in terms of your racial sobriety? These are all things that you need to be asking yourself, and these are things that that are going to be shared at the conference, and I'm going to be sharing with people, is to ask yourself specific questions around what your needs are around racial sobriety, and is it even appropriate for you to have a white sponsor? Can your white sponsor hear you when you have to share all your vulnerabilities and stuff like that around being a person of colour? That is really, really important. That is really, really important. So having your support network in place, and being really clear about what you need in terms of sponsorship and stuff like that is really important, because the work that you do with your sponsor is going to have a huge impact on your ability to really go deep into your recovery. So looking for a sponsor is really important as well. And as I was saying before as well about finding a therapist, do you need a therapist to kind of to underpin all the stuff that you're doing in recovery? I personally had I've always worked with a therapist alongside my recovery, and I found it really, really useful, because often when you go to meetings, you might get 5 minutes to share or whatever, and obviously if you've got a good outreach network, you can obviously share with them and stuff like that. But I found that just going into a therapist space for 1 hour a week, and I can just offload all of my stuff. It was just so powerful to be able to do that, in addition to the stuff that I was learning in the recovery room. So, again, if you're going to pick a therapist, do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colour? Do you want your therapist to be a person of colo You know, how is that going to benefit you? Again, as in the same situation with your sponsorship, is that going to work for you or not? You know, and it's about understanding, you know, especially if you've been in a situation where, you know, you've been abused by family that look like you. You know, I'll be honest with you, when I initially went into recovery and I started having therapy, I couldn't see a black therapist at the time because I was too traumatized. I was too upset and too traumatized to actually get that vulnerable with another person. I mean, it took me a little bit of time to work through a lot of that stuff for me to actually make a conscious decision that I needed to see a black therapist. And it's been really powerful. You know, but one of the things that I will talk about in the conference is, you know, how to pick one, the sort of questions that you need to ask, the sort of type of things that you need to look for, how you can sort of take care of yourself in between the therapist sessions and all of that kind of stuff. All of these things are really important. Is the therapist even culturally competent? Because a lot of the trainings and stuff like that, what they have, I'm not sure what it's like in the States, but in the UK, you know, the training is not adequate in terms of cultural competency. And I know if you're a therapist, and you're probably going to piss you off hearing that, but that's the truth. You know, I know a lot of black therapists that say the same thing. You know, unless you're actively doing this work, or, you know, I know a lot of people of colour or black therapists that are actually, you know, there's an organisation in the UK called Baton, Black and Asian Therapist Network. Great organisation. I've done work with them before. You know, used therapists from there and stuff like that. They've been really, really great, but they're actively doing the work around this stuff. So a lot of them, they're doing that in addition to all of the stuff what they learned in their training, because the training what they have, you know, in the colleges and whatever, they don't go deep enough with a lot of this stuff. So even though you may be sitting with a black therapist, it doesn't mean that they're culturally competent, if that makes sense. So it's important to understand a lot of these things, to ensure that you're going to get your needs met around this stuff. So so that's another one of the master classes that I'm going to be doing is about, you know, how to find a really good therapist. And at the minute I'm sort of working out trying to get if I can get another therapist to come on the masterclass with me. So then obviously we could talk to that person as well about, you know, different styles and you know, just different things, you know. So fingers crossed, hopefully the person that I've asked to do it is able to do it. If not, you know, I do know other therapists as well that hopefully will be able to do it. But anyway, it's gonna be a really good opportunity for you to learn how to take care of yourself and get your needs met when it comes to therapy. Okay, so that is number 6, making sure you've got a really good support network. So the last one, number 7, is going to be about, you know, if you've been in recovery for a while and you understand how the system works and you want a people of colour meeting around your primary fellowship, I'm going to do another masterclass it's going to teach you how to set up your own people of colour meeting within your primary fellowship. And that is so important. That is so important, because then you can do the meeting in the context of, you know, say if you're in AA, for an example, then it's just like for people of colour in AA. And then you can talk about it in the context of racial sobriety in AA sort of type thing. And then it's gonna give you more of an identification and all of that kind of stuff. So that is really important. And I've written the script for other fellowships, and it works really well. So I've done so much service in the recovery community, but I don't, you know, I want to use my skills a lot more to empower the people of colour community to go out and start setting up your own meetings and doing all this kind of stuff. So if you're a seasoned person in recovery and, you know, you're in food fellowship or whatever your primary fellowship is, your primary acting out fellowship, and you want to learn how to set up a meeting, you think there's even if there's only, you know, 3 or 4 of you, 2 or 3 of you want to set up the meeting, it's possible. You can still do it. And this is going to be one of the masterclasses that's going to be available that I'm going to be doing as part of this series. So if you're interested in those things, click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. So those are the 7 things. I'm just going to run through them again really quickly. So the first one is you've got to understand the psychology of racism. It's important to understand what you're dealing with. Number 2, you've got to understand the impact of racism. If you don't understand the impact of racism on you personally, not collective, personally, because you need to heal yourself first before you can start looking at other people. Focus on yourself. I saw something on my timeline today about how can we heal as a community and all the rest of it. And people were saying quite vague things, and I'm going to respond to it later actually. People were saying quite vague things about, we need to build businesses, or we need to have unity. These things are all great in one sense, but nobody's saying anything about doing the individual work. You can't have unity in the community unless you have personal responsibility. It's got to start with you. We say in recovery, let it begin with me. It has to begin with you. It has to begin with you, not anybody else. That can be a cop out. You can always be saying, oh, the community is this and the community needs to do that. What are you doing? You have to take responsibility for your healing and your recovery at the moment. That is the only way that it's going to work, because then when you heal, then it kind of is a ripple effect that happens. That's how it works. So you've got to do your work first before you start looking at anybody else. So that's really important. So that's number, what was that? What number was that? So that was number 3, the relationships? You've got to understand your acting out patterns. Yeah, so that's number 3. Number 4 was cultural top lines. You need the tools. You got to understand what your limits are. Top lines and bottom lines are just about limits and boundaries. You got to understand what you need in order to process what you need to process, and keep yourself safe. That's what top and bottom lines are for. And how to empower yourself and make you feel good, build self-esteem and all that kind of stuff. So that's the tools. You need cultural top lines. Number 5, you've got to understand. Oh, well, I missed this one actually. Number 5, sickness in the rooms. I never talked about sickness in the rooms. You've got to remember that loads of people that are in recovery are damaged. They're damaged people. They're traumatized. They've had tough lives and all the rest of it. And sometimes those behaviours get acted out in different ways, and sometimes they're inappropriate. Sometimes they're very inappropriate the way that it's acted out. So sometimes when people have been in recovery a long time, and they can use their recovery to kind of manipulate other people. They can manipulate other newcomers and stuff like that into getting into relationships with them and all this kind of stuff. So it can become a bit of a a breeding ground for predators to kind of looking for vulnerable newcomers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's important. I am going to be saving this live. It's going to be available on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to download it. It's Sheba. I'm going to download it and I'm going to upload it to my website. So it will be on the Racial Sobriety Conference page. Yeah, so if you need to watch it again, because obviously it's only going to be on my Instagram for the next 24 hours, but it'll be on Facebook. I'm going to leave it up on Facebook. It'll be pinned to the top. If you go to heal.juneallen.net, give me about an hour or so after this live stream, and you'll see it there. So it will definitely be live. So you can go back and watch it if there's anything that you want to see again. So great. If you've got any questions or anything, just send me a direct message. Send me a direct message and I can answer your questions. So yeah, number 5, you've got to remember that there are sick people in the rooms that are trying to heal from their stuff and they act it out. So, one of the things it was important to talk about, I've experienced, that type of behaviour as well in the rooms. I never got too deep into it because obviously my recovery is quite hot now. But, in terms of newcomers and stuff like that, it's important that newcomers understand that the recovery rooms are going to have people in it that you might get targeted by predators that are in there. So that's what they call the 13th step. So I'm going to be talking more about that as well. Number 6 is support network. You've got to think about your sponsor, and also think about if you're going to work with a therapist, what colour is the therapist, are you going to get your needs met, all that kind of stuff. And number 7 is, if you're seasoned in recovery, how to start a people of colour meeting. Yeah, so that's number 7. I've just gone through them very quickly. I'm sorry I missed number 5, but anyway, I've gone through it now. So that's it. So if you know someone who is addicted, or you think you might have problems with addiction, and you want to learn more about racial sobriety, and you want to learn more about how to navigate the rooms, join us on the virtual conference on the 1st of June. Click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. net. Thank you so much for joining me today. I don't take for granted how you choose to spend time with me, so thank you for that. If you've got any questions or anything, then you can inbox me. If you'd like to schedule a call with me, I have a private call. I take one-on-one calls. You can schedule a call with me at callme.juneallen.net. So that's me, your sister in service, signing off for the evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.